Following the multilateral summit at the White House, President Donald Trump held a highly anticipated phone call with Russian President Vladimir Putin. A conversation that set the stage for a dramatic and potentially seismic shift in the war in Ukraine. In the hours that followed, details began to emerge of a foundational understanding for a peace settlement, one that appears to incorporate several of Moscow's long-standing core demands. Sources within the administration have indicated that President Trump is prepared to broker a deal that would see Ukraine formally cede the Crimean Peninsula to Russia and abandon its aspirations for NATO membership in exchange for a cessation of hostilities and the withdrawal of Russian troops from all other Ukrainian territories occupied since the full-scale invasion began. This framework, presented by Putin and now seemingly accepted in principle by Trump as a basis for negotiation, represents a stark departure from the previously held position of Ukraine and its Western allies and has sent shockwave through the international community. The proposal, as outlined by Putin to Trump, is a grand bargain rooted in a realist interpretation of the military and political situations on the ground. The core tenets presented to the White House are clear. Russia would end all military operations and withdraw its force to the line held before the major escalations, but only if Ukraine amends its constitutions to enshrine permanent neutrality, effectively barring it from joining NATO or any other military alliance. Furthermore, the deal would require international legal recognition of Crimea, which Russia annexed in a move widely condemned as illegal, as a sovereign part of the Russian Federation. The status of the Donbas region, another key area of contention, would be subject to further negotiation. But the framework implies a return of those territories to Ukrainian control, albeit with potential provisions for a degree of autonomy and language rights for the local population. President Trump's apparent willingness to entertain and indeed advance this framework is a reflection of his America First foreign policy and his long-stated desire to end endless war and reduce American overseas commitment. In a press briefing following the call, Trump did not confirm the specific but spoke in broad terms about the need for a realistic and pragmatic solution. We have to look at the reality of the situation, Trump stated. Everyone wants peace. President Putin wants peace. President Zelensky wants peace. The question is, what does that peace look like? It has to be a strong peace, a lasting peace, and it has to be a fair peace for everybody involved. He emphasized that the current trajectory of the war was unsustainable and that a different approach was needed to prevent further bloodshed and instability. The concession on Crimea, while controversial, is seen by some analysts aligned with the administration as an acknowledgement of the military reality. Russia has complete control over the peninsula for over a decade, has integrated fully into its military and administrative structure, and has made it clear that it would never relinquish it willingly. Forcing Russia out of Crimea militarily is viewed by the Trump administration as an unachievable goal that would require massive and costly escalation of the conflict with no guarantee of success. Therefore, in this view, recognizing Russian sovereignty, there is a bitter but necessary pill to swallow to achieve a broader peace. The issue of NATO membership is equally central to Russia's strategic calculus. Moscow has long viewed the eastward expansion of the alliance as a direct threat to its security interests and has cited it as a primary justification for its action in Ukraine. By securing a commitment of permanent neutrality from Kyiv, Putin would achieve a key strategic objective, establishing a permanent buffer zone between Russia and the NATO alliance. For President Trump, who has often expressed skepticism about the values and costs of NATO, guaranteeing Ukraine's non-aligned status may be seen as a reasonable concession to de-escalate tensions with a nuclear-armed power and avoid future flashpoint. This framework has been met with a mixture of alarm, anger, and cautious consideration. In Kyiv, the initial reaction has been one of shock and betrayal. Ukrainian officials, while not publicly rebuking President Trump directly, have reiterated their long-standing position that they will not trade territory for peace. President Zelensky's office issued a statement emphasizing that Ukraine's sovereignty and territorial integrity within its internationally recognized border are non-negotiable. The prospect of constitutionally abandoning the goal of NATO membership, which is deeply popular among the Ukrainian public and seen as the only ultimate guarantee of security, is also a red line for many in the country. The proposal placed President Zelensky in an almost impossible position, caught between the harsh realities of a deteriorating military situation, as articulated by his top general, and the immense domestic pressure to not capitulate to Russian demands. European leaders who were just in Washington discussing a united front have expressed deep concern. While they share the desire for peace, many fear that this deal rewards Russian aggression and sets a dangerous precedent for changing international borders by force. Leaders from Eastern European nations, particularly the Baltic states and Poland, are especially worried that such a settlement would embolden Russia and undermine the security of the entire region. They have consistently argued that the only lasting peace is one based on a clear Russian defeat and the full restoration of Ukrainian territory. Secretary of State Marco Rubio and Secretary of Defense Peter Hegseth are now tasked with the difficult job of selling this potential deal to skeptical allies and to a divided Congress. In a series of calls to his European counterparts, Rubio reportedly stressed that this is merely a starting point for negotiations and that the United States remain committed to Ukraine's long-term security. He has emphasized that the framework would include robust, ironclad security guarantees for neutral Ukraine, guarantees that would be underwritten by the United States and major European powers, similar to the Article 5 style assurance discussed earlier. The coming days are said to be a period of intense and frantic diplomacy as the world digests the implications of this potential settlement. The proposal essentially forced a choice between two deeply unpalatable options: a peace that involved painful and significant concessions to the aggressor, or a continuation of a brutal war that Ukraine is struggling to sustain. With no clear path to a decisive victory, President Trump appears to be betting that the allure of ending the bloodshed and achieving a stable, albeit imperfect, peace will ultimately outweigh the principal objections to the territorial and strategic concessions involved. He is framing the deal as a masterstroke of negotiation, a way to cut through years of diplomatic deadlock and achieve a concrete result. However, critics argue that it is a capitulation that validates Putin's revanchist ambition and leave Ukraine in a permanently vulnerable position, reliant on security guarantees that may or may not be honored in the future. The fate of Ukraine, and indeed the future of European security, now hangs in the balance, contingent on the outcome of the negotiation based on a framework that many thought was impossible just days ago. Many of my listeners, like 70%, haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel, and so many of you don't even know that you haven't subscribed. And that is actually what makes the show go on. It's almost like you're making a donation to the show. So that's why I ask again and again, because it enables us to grow and grow and grow. And we're going for the long haul here. And listen, if this is your first time listening to World Global Conflict, you don't have to subscribe. You guys, your first one's on me. But if you have watched this show before, it's like you are a freeloader now. So all I would ask you is, if you have seen this show before and you like it, help me, my team here. Hit that subscribe and like button, and we will continue to build this show for you. That I swear. Thank you to all of you guys who have subscribed. It means a lot to me. Thank you so much. That's all for me for today. I will see you soon. Bye for now.